Hello, and welcome back to the 20th Century Dude channel. Currently, you are actually catching me at work right now. So I have a little free time before supper. I meant to get this video out a little sooner. Didn't happen, unfortunately. Uh, but I'm here now. So today's topic, as you can obviously see, are the Beatles films. Now, typically, I'm not terribly fond of the ranking system. I don't think that's the end all be all way to, I guess, critique movies. It only helps somewhat. It should not be, I guess, the definitive way of a movie opinion. Uh, but not to say that this isn't a ranking. That this is just more or less films that I like more than others. Because it depends on what I was entertained by, what the overall quality of the film was, historical significance and whatnot. Um, so let's jump in, and I think as far as the Beatles filmography is concerned, it's very expansive if you're considering like roles that the Beatles have done in other films. Like I think John Lennon was like, I guess, a co-star in a war film that Richard Lester had done. Ringo Starr had appeared in The Magic Christian, which was a film with was it Peter Sellers, I think it was. But we're not counting those films. We're counting I guess the core five that the Beatles starred in. That would be starting from Hard Day's Night and ending with Let It Be. The core films where they were in it together. These were the core Beatles films. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on, not other stuff. I mean, primarily because I haven't really seen uh, the Beatles and a whole lot else aside from those. But anyway, let's jump in. So I feel like if I were to put one of the original five at the bottom, it would probably be the original Let It Be documentary. Now, what a key fact to know about this is that I'm assuming in the modern day, not a whole lot of people have seen this documentary. It was shot in 16 millimeter. It was released in theaters. It went to home video on Betamax and VHS, but it never quite left there. Never quite left the original home video release. So, for a lot of people, this film is somewhat mostly lost. So, unless you want to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a beta or VHS tape on eBay, yeah, there's just no way to see the film. But I did manage to find a copy on the Internet Archive, conveniently enough. So I had a feeling somebody must have had a tape or acquired one at some point. Did their own little digital transfer, and that is what you saw on the Internet Archive, assuming they haven't taken it down yet. Because concerning the original Star Wars trilogy, yeah, they were pretty quick to get rid of those. But yeah, so you're not going to see like a restored film print or anything like that. It's going to be a transfer from home videotape. So unfortunately, yeah, it's just one of those things where what you see is what you get, because that's all we're provided with at this point is the tape source. So as far as the overall film goes, it's okay. I didn't really find myself to be overly entertained at all. I feel like if you wanted a better representation of this footage, I would say check the Get Back documentary that Peter Jackson released a couple years ago, which I feel like is a better overall portrait of chronicling the Beatles during this time of making the Get Back album, which then, of course, turned to Let It Be and Abbey Road. Of course, that documentary is 7.5 hours long. Of course, it's split into three parts, but it is 7.5 hours. So I guess if you wanted a shorter and more abridged version, then you can watch Let It Be, if you can find it. Because I think it's only like, what, an hour 10, hour 20 minutes maybe? compared to a 7.5 hour cut. So if you want a shorter version, I guess watch this. But if you want what I feel like is a better representation of the Beatles, then watch the Get Back documentary, which is the one I would prefer. If I were to pick the second worst, so to speak, I would say it's the Magical Mystery Tour movie. Again, it's not bad depending on what kind of lens you're watching it through. This was a TV movie, I believe. I don't think it got a theatrical release. Then again, didn't find it in high quality. I think it was either a low quality film transfer or I don't think it was tape. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, this film is bonkers. It's just all over the place. It's super duper strange. And whether that's a good or bad thing depends on what you get out of it. So if you're into, I guess, it being super weird, then you are going to love this film. But if not, and if you feel like you're going to be very weirded out, then yeah, this one's probably a skip. Because it's very bonkers. You can just, maybe it was intentional or not. I think the Beatles were probably high at one point or on drugs, and this is what they conceived. Because it's a very, very strange movie. It's very all over the place. So if you're into that, yeah, check this one out. You're going to enjoy it thoroughly. But if not, then you're just not. As far as third best goes, I would say then there's the Help movie, which I own the actual movie soundtrack on vinyl, and I have the regular album on cassette tape. I've had it there for quite a bit of time. So I think there's definitely some, I guess, Bondian elements, I guess you can say, being it's a globe-trotting adventure. But it's obviously inspired by Bond. Bond was made uh, over in Great Britain, and Beatles are obviously from Great Britain. So, and I think there's even like some soundtrack pieces. It's like they're trying not to like rip off some Bond soundtracks, but it's so very obvious that they are, because there's that familiar guitar riff, and you could just is that the Bond theme? Oh, it's just dollar store Bond theme. But yeah, the Beatles in this one essentially go on this globe-trotting adventure. Of course, Ringo gets into mischief. It seems like he gets into mischief in a lot of these movies. Ringo gets into mischief in A Hard Day's Night. He gets into trouble in this film. And I think he also gets into trouble in the Yellow Submarine movie. So yeah, never can seem to stay out of trouble, it seems. So the overall quality, I think this film works. I like it. I don't think it's as well polished as the previous one. I think it's maybe just not as ironed out, but you'll get pretty good experience out of this if you just want something fun, and if you want to watch the Beatles for an hour and a half. So yeah, there's a movie I can recommend. Up next, then we have the Yellow Submarine movie, which is basically 99% animated, except for the very end, which the Beatles appear in live action for a brief minute. But upon watching this for the first time, I mean, this distinctly gave me like Spider-Verse vibes, where it just felt so distinctive and so fresh in its animation style. There really just isn't anything that looks like this. Even Spider-Verse, doesn't. I don't think riffs off this animation style. It certainly doesn't look like any of the Disney films at the time. The animation is just something of its own, which a few people might gripe about. They might not like it, but I thought it was very fresh. I think it worked for what the film was trying to do. But it's also very, it's a very artsy film as well. I think it's another film that also inspired John Lasseter, because he realized that animation could be more than just entertainment. It could be an art form. So that's also just what this movie is. And, of course, you're bound to have a good time with it. And of course, last but not least, the best of the Beatles films, A Hard Day's Night. So this is actually the one I've probably watched the most. The other ones I've seen either once or twice. This one I've seen at least 3 or 4 times, so I'm definitely more familiar with it. And as far as the overall quality goes, this is definitely for me the most ironed out Beatles film. It just feels consistently funny, that and consistently tonally throughout the entire movie. Again, in a lot of these Beatles films. So yeah, I think personally this one's the best of the bunch. Maybe some people will prefer Yellow Submarine. I don't know. There might be that one person. It's like the Magical Mystery Tour. That one's the best Beatles movie. But I'm more of a Hard Day's Night guy. And also another note: the guy in there who plays Paul's grandfather, which I don't think it is Paul's grandfather. Maybe I'm wrong. I think he's in the Hitchcock film. Was it the 39 Steps? I think it is. At least there's a guy that looks just like him. So there's some familiar here. It's like, oh yeah, hey, that guy. But yeah, he's just notoriously all over the place in the film. It's actually the grandpa that causes the most trouble. So there's funny moments there, but overall, I think A Hard Day's Night, that one's probably the best of the five. So you get films are good for what they are. This one's of course a great I guess you could call it a mockumentary movie, probably. At least it's filmed in that style. And then you have a few others that are okay for what they are, but not quite as good as some of the other ones. But yeah, that's my overall opinion on these Beatles films. So I'm also in the process of watching Peter Jackson's Get Back documentary. Because I think that's just one of those things you got to watch maybe a second time. I mean, it's 7.5 hours, so you're bound to miss something uh, the first time watching it in the original runtime. But yeah, that's about all I have for today. Um, Otherwise, I hope you all have a splendid weekend and have a good day. So, see ya.